Sri Lanka exports for the past couple of years has been stagnant. This year, first quarter, we have done about 4 billion US dollars. Last year, same time frame, we had done about 3 billion. So there's about 6% increase. I go for many events, export related events, and I see the same exporters
Coming for
almost
the
daily.
same
There's no new faces. Not much of innovation, not much of research and development is done to add value. This is what we need to be doing. We want to see the number of exporters increasing in Sri Lanka. We want to see more products adding to our export basket. Or you call it the Trump tariff.
Trump Tariff.
It was a big shocker, not only to us, for this whole region. I think the whole world was shocked. It is the apparel sector that is doing well. And they have done a lot of work in this sector. I mean, with very small beginnings, they are reached to the top now. The apparel sector does a lot of branding or marketing for Sri Lanka. But at the same time, they must learn the proper mechanism. There is no shortcuts.
Yeah.
Because if you make a wrong move and you try to shortcut and sell something, and if there is any damage happening, the damage is for the country. We have a program in our chamber called the Aspiring Exporters,
Okay.
where we identify young entrepreneurs who like to start export business. We get them on board. We connect them with the leading exporters. They get to learn how they do business. Some of them sell to these leading exporters.
Right.
All these are learning experience. And then our final aim is to make them exporter. Exporters bring prosperity to a nation. Not exporting our same old products and services. We need somebody to come think new,
Okay.
add value to what we have. Sri Lankan exporters went through a 30-year-old war.
Correct. Yeah.
They went through the tsunami, the Easter bombing, COVID,
COVID. Yeah.
the financial crisis, the political crisis. Still they sustained.
The latest development in Sri Lanka, many people are talking about exports. Then we got to know that some entrepreneurs also are worried about exports. So today we have a special guest to talk about exports, and especially to support the private sector exporters. There is an exclusive chamber. So invited the Secretary General CEO of National Chamber of Exporters, Mr. Shiham Marikar. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me on board.
So the most important question everybody would like to know, especially the viewers, Mr. Shiham, will you be able to give us like how you started your journey?
Yes, first of all, let me thank you once again for having me on board. I think providing awareness through digital platforms like this, especially on subjects like exports and anything related to the economy of Sri Lanka, is a good thing. So congratulations and keep it up. So to give you a brief about how I joined the export sector, I am not an exporter myself. I head the National Chamber of Exporters of Sri Lanka. This is a private sector chamber, and we exclusively serve the exporters, direct, indirect exporters, and also service providers to exporters. So I started my career straight after school. I joined John Keel's Holdings. I think I got a lot of experience there. I worked there for almost 2 years.
Okay.
Then I joined an Australian company, also related to sales and marketing, you could say. I was working in Australia for some time. Then I was in the Middle East region, looking after the UAE, Dubai, Oman, all the Gulf countries. And after 17 years, in 2010, I came back to Sri Lanka. I didn't have any idea of working. I thought I'll start something on my own. But then, I had lost my network for so long time.
Okay.
And in Sri Lanka, or I think in general, if you want to succeed in business, you need to have a proper or a strong network. So since I lost that, I thought, why shouldn't I should work for an organization, build up that network. And this is where I came across the National Chamber of Exporters. And there was a vacancy at that time on a senior manager level. I joined them, and then of course I became a director. And now I'm working as a Secretary General and the CEO. So the National Chamber of Exporters of Sri Lanka is a private sector chamber. We have around 600 members covering almost all the products and service sectors, and also starting from the MSME to the extra large capacity. And we do a lot of service to them in terms of lobbying on their behalf, helping them with market access programs, and so on. And it is our intention to support the government, not a political party, any government, because exports is needed to the country.
Correct.
That's the only avenue where Sri Lanka can get a large amount of foreign currency. And since we are in dire need of that, we need to work with the exporters community. That's why I say even the program that you're doing,
Yeah.
it creates a lot of awareness to the audience. And of course, you are a YouTube channel. That is the trend now. People prefer to, look at YouTube to get more ideas.
Correct.
And we need to create awareness of what are the opportunities available in Sri Lanka. A lot of opportunities available, but only a few people are in the export game, I could say.
Correct.
The number of exporters in Sri Lanka has remained stagnant. And we need to increase more exporters. A lot of young entrepreneurs who can think of exports as a career. So we need to do a lot of work, and let's hope for the best.
Correct. So now what we see is for 2025, especially when this Donald Trump imposed this tariff 44%, everybody was talking about exports. And everybody got to know that the highest export income comes from the garment sector. Then thereafter tea and other products also. So are you like currently happy with the structure as at now with the export exposure, or should we change that?
Well, to give you a background, Sri Lanka exports for the past couple of years has been stagnant. We have been in the range of 10 billion to 12, 13 billion US dollars per year. Whereas if you look at the region, our neighbors have overtaken us and they have gone to very different heights. So there are a lot of things we need to do as a country, and we have so much of resources. Now, of course, you were talking about the apparel sector. Yes, apparel sector is the leading export sector. It brings around 4.5 to 5 billion US dollars. Last year, we reached around 13 billion, despite a lot of challenges. And this year, there's an ambitious target that is put in by the Export Development Board, that is to reach around 14 billion, about 13.8, 14 billion. This is merchandise exports. And it is possible. Now, if you look at the first quarter, that is this year, first quarter, we have done about 4 billion US dollars. Last year, same time frame, we had done about 3 billion. So there's about 6% increase. So I think there's a lot of focus from the government on exports. A lot of support is given by the different ministries related to trade and exports. And I think the exporters are also now motivated. So all these elements working together towards one aim, I think reaching 14 or even 15, 16 billion US dollars will not be a major issue. But the sad part is when you look at the past, we have been stagnant. Not only in the export value, even if you look at the number of exporters in Sri Lanka, right? It has been the same. When I go for many events, export related events, and I see the same exporters almost there. There's no new faces. Then if you look at the products and services that we export, the export basket, it has been the same products. Not much of innovation, not much of research and development is done to add value. This is what we need to be doing. Of course, a couple of years ago when the borrowing was not easy for the Sri Lankan exporters, interest rates were high, always collateral is there as an issue. So companies were very reluctant in borrowing and investing on research and development. And also there was not much of support by the state side in terms of providing that sort of support to the exporters to engage in research and development. So we have been exporting the same products and services during the past many years. But if you look at our neighboring countries, they have value added, they have innovated, new products are coming into the market. So this is what we need to do. Okay. So the resources are there. We have the talent. We as a chamber, we do work with a lot of regional players, like suppliers to exporters.
Right.
Now, last month, we were in Trincomalee and Jaffna, where we met about 300 actually, suppliers to exporters. Okay. And we noted that even they have the potential to export directly. But we need to give them a little bit of support. They don't have an export-ready product yet. It is there. Maybe they lack in packaging, right. Not much of branding done. So there are few areas where we need to work with them, and we can make them exporters. So as a private sector chamber, we work very closely in those areas. We want to see the number of exporters increasing in Sri Lanka. We want to see more products adding to our export basket. So these are the challenges we have. But if we work together, like I said, I'm sure we can reach, because the potential is there.
Yeah. The recent news that everybody got to know was about Donald Trump's 44% tariff on Sri Lanka, as well as Sri Lanka stock markets crashed. Entrepreneurs were wondering what's going to happen, especially exporters were also worried. So how does this tariffs on USA, how they are imposing on us, and the global tariff, how is it like affecting our Sri Lankan exporters?
Yes, so the UF tariff, or you call it the Trump tariff, it was a big shocker, not only to us, for this whole region. I think the whole world was shocked. And while we are not going to argue whether that was right or wrong, because that was, I think, election mandate that he's fulfilling. On the other hand, we depend a lot on the US market, especially the apparel sector. We export around $3 billion US dollars worth of apparels to the US. And it is not only the value or the foreign currency of 3 billion. If you look at the apparel sector, they play a vital role in jobs. A lot of jobs are given in that sector. A lot of industries are there. If you look at the main economic zones, it is the apparel sector that is doing well. And they have done a lot of work in this sector. I mean, with very small beginnings, they are reached to the top now. They supply to some of the leading brands around the world. And I think, in my view, the apparel sector does a lot of branding or marketing for Sri Lanka. So I think that is a sector that will be hugely impacted if the tariffs remain in a very high level. But I think on a good news side, we could say that negotiations are already happening. And we got a 3 months grace period. But the 10% slab is it's still there. Now, previously, when Sri Lanka was exporting to USA, at an average, we were paying around 12 to 12.5% anyway.
Yeah, okay.
I'm talking about the apparel sector. Now, it's a 10% there, addition to that 12.5% that we were paying. And the 44% is, of course, now they're given us some time.
Yeah.
So I hope the negotiations will work. But I think what we need to be mindful is, if the same tariffs are imposed to this region, because we are competing with, if you take the apparel sector, with India, Cambodia, Vietnam, Bangladesh, they are our competitors. Yeah. So if all these countries are imposed with the same amount of tariffs, then we will still continue. Of course, it is going to be a challenge, but we will still have that competitive advantage. But if they reduce the tariff, let's say to India, and increase from Sri Lanka, then it is going to be a very big problem. So we as private sector chambers, we work very closely with the authorities, giving them ground level input.
Okay.
And already negotiations are going on. And we feel very hopeful. We are positive that we will be able to come to an agreement which is satisfying both parties, because see, that's a huge economy, and our bargaining power is very, very weak
low,
there. But of course, as far as I know, a very confident team has been sent, and we are hoping for the best. And we have to meet the challenges and move forward, because we can't allow the apparel sector to fall. So other than the apparel sector, we have the rubber and rubber-related products like solid tires are exported to US, and we have tea also that is exported. But apparel is the main sector. So the tariff trumps, yes, it was a shocker to all of us, but we need to work around it. So we are hoping for some good news to come out very soon. And then we have to plan our strategies accordingly.
Now, some of these exporters must be worried. Say, an entrepreneur started recently and he's exporting to US and other globally. Now, what are the protectionism measures that like you all provide them, or are you providing any training, guideline? How does it happen there?
Well, we as a private sector chamber, we do a lot of seminars, workshops on technical matters.
Right.
Because for the Sri Lankan exporter, let's say to reach the European market, even though they may have a good product, they still need to have the proper standards and certifications. Because the consumers in those countries are very particular. So we do a lot of training, we engage them with us, we get technical experts to come and talk to them. We do workshops, and also, getting these standards and certifications could be very expensive, especially for a SME exporter. So we connect them with There are a lot of funding agencies in Sri Lanka. There are a lot of private sector banks who support, with funding for them to get these certifications. So we play an important role in connecting these elements. But it's not an easy thing. Of course, exports is something I would say a lot of young people should look at as a career. But at the same time, they must learn the proper mechanism. There is no shortcuts.
Yeah.
Because if you make a wrong move and you try to shortcut and sell something, and if there is any damage happening, the damage is for the country. So we don't need that. So we play a very active role in talking to them. We have a program in our chamber called the Aspiring Exporters,
Okay.
where we identify young entrepreneurs who like to start export business. We get them on board. We connect them with the leading exporters. They get to learn how they do business. Some of them sell to these leading exporters.
Right.
All these are learning experience. And then our final aim is to make them exporter. But like you said, there are a lot of steps that they need to take, and they have to be patient, learn the trade properly, because here we are talking about Sri Lanka competing not with other Sri Lankans. They are competing in the international arena with developed countries, who may have the similar product or better product. But there is always a market. There are a lot of, we need to look at a niche market, especially if you take our cinnamon.
Yeah.
We are the only one who have that.
Yes,
Nobody can dictate terms to us. So like that, I think our young entrepreneurs should look at innovating something new.
Yeah.
And also after COVID, there is something called the new need that emerged. So every country, there's a new need. Even when you talk about our tea, the flavors that they are now asking is not like what they had before. So
totally
our herbal products, Ayurvedic products, our handicrafts, these are very well accepted. So we need to channel these properly, and we need to work with the exporters community very closely. There are a lot of programs by even by the government, like from the Industry Development Board. We have the Export Development Board that is playing a very important role in supporting the SME exporters. So we need to get more and more. We need them coming on board, and we need to increase the number of exporters in Sri Lanka.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I think what is clear is like sometimes there is opportunities, but as entrepreneurs they should be able to first learn and then they can earn. Now so a lot of people want to earn first before they learn, then only they get fall in trouble.
Yeah.
You were mentioning about I just got a word saying funding. So do you support like funding to some of the entrepreneurs as well for exporters? How does it work?
If there is a young startup company, maybe they're looking at exports, if they have a proper business plan, if they have studied the market, how they are going to process that product and how they are going to do the packaging, the branding, and take it. If they have a proper business plan, we work with them very closely.
Okay.
We add value to whatever they have, and then we connect them with leading banks.
Right. Okay.
Where if the bank is convinced, yes, they will fund them.
Okay.
Sometimes with very minimum collateral, because you see, for Sri Lanka to prosper, I think exports should increase.
Correct. Yes.
We always say that exporters bring prosperity to a nation, and especially now when we are in a financial crisis, we have to pay debts. We have to pay it in US dollars.
Yes,
So if you look at the US dollars coming to the country, remittance from our foreign workers, it's around I think $3 billion US dollars. From tourism, I think we will reach about 4.5, 5. It's really doing well now. But exports is at 13 to 14 billion US dollars. So we need to increase that. We need to increase all three. But I think special focus, when you talk about export, job creation, there are chances of foreign investors coming to Sri Lanka. All those opportunities are there. So yes, we need to play an important role, increase our export basket, increase the number of exporters, and take it to the next level.
Especially on this program, we must be seeing different kind of viewers joining in. Especially sometimes if you are 18, 25 or below 30, having an idea to start export-driven company. What kind of advice would you like to give this kind of entrepreneurs?
Well, I would like to say that we want more and more young people to think of exports as a career. Because you see, when you talk about the young generation now, they have new ideas. They think out of the box. So that is maybe that is what the country needs. Not exporting our same old products and services. We need somebody to come think new,
Okay.
add value to what we have. So we are encouraging more and more young people to come on board. Like I said, we have our own programs under our chamber to support the young people who are thinking or looking at exports. We can support them in many areas, starting from coaching, guiding them on the registration processes, connecting them with suppliers for raw materials, connecting them with finance institutions to get if they need any capital to start up their business. So there are various programs, but like you earlier said, Roshan,
Yes.
there cannot be shortcuts. You can't think of first earning money.
Yeah.
You have to follow the process. It may take a year, sometimes 2 years, to establish and build up your product or your brand, and then taking it to the next level. Now, keeping in mind, the biggest challenge an exporter will have is finding markets. Finding international buyers is always difficult. So here also we have programs where we connect. We have partnered with many overseas trade chambers. We work very closely with all the Sri Lankan missions overseas. So if there is someone with a good product or a service, we can connect them with those. And then of course later you may have to invest money and visit those countries, go and participate at an exhibition, and then find your buyers.
Correct.
But first you need to have a very good product or service. With that, it should be export ready product or a service with the required standards and certifications. And then with our support from the Export Development Board and other relevant authorities, they can do well. See, there's always a risk when you are doing any business. But with regards to export, the focus from the whole country is on exports now. So the chances of you succeeding, I would say, is much more higher. So yeah, my message to the young people today is think of exports as a career, and hopefully you'll do very well.
Now, Sri Lanka, everybody is wanting dollars to come into the country. So more we export, more dollars will come into the country, because some of the countries we have seen globally, they have expanded their exports. So therefore, the country is running on a smooth note. To Sri Lanka, we need people like you all who would like to start entrepreneurial business and exports and bring dollars into Sri Lanka. Now, what are the plans for this coming year and next year, and during your tenure, what are the exclusive new things that you have introduced? If we like to know a few more about that.
Well, we actually plan our strategies along with the main plan introduced by the government. The target is set by the government.
Right.
We are also working very close because Sri Lanka still doesn't have a national export strategy. Many industries are working in their own silos, which is not a good thing. Before COVID, there was something called the National Export Strategy, the NES, that was developed with the help of International Trade Center in Geneva, funded also by the World Bank. But due to political changes, it was shelved. Now we understand from the Export Development Board that they are reviving that. Maybe some amendments will be, because this was done before COVID. So once there is a national export strategy in place, that's good for everybody who wants to start exports. And under that strategy, we have identified, I think, 5 or 6 sectors that has potential, including, like, if you take the ICT sector, we were at that time projecting the ICT sector to reach $5 billion US. $5 billion. See, today in Sri Lanka, we only have $2 or $3 billion industries. One is the apparel sector, which is doing about 4.5 to 5 billion. Then we have the tea sector, which is doing about 1.5 2 billion. Then we have the rubber sector, which is reaching $1 billion. But if you look at other countries in our region, all the industries are over 5-10 billion. So we have a lot of work to do. But like I said, the potential is there. Yeah. We need to have a proper national export strategy. Because what happens is, if you look at the past, policies keep on changing.
Correct.
When there's a change in either, not the government, when there's a change in the officer in that department, we see a policy change.
Correct.
And also, moving forward, one very important thing is creating digital platforms. So now we can see a lot of talk about everything wants to go digital. These are a good thing. Today, exporter he is wasting a lot of time with paperwork. So by creating digital platforms, it's going to make it easy for them to do business.
Correct.
Even for young entrepreneurs, if they want to start exports, they will be fed up in couple of months just doing the paperwork.
Correct.
But if everything is done through a digital platform, imagine how, I mean, that's what the young trend is also, they're always on the
phone,
digital app, they are, doing work
Yes.
at that ease. So I think, that's what I said, so there are a lot of focus on exports. Now, if you look at the, related stakeholders like the customs, Indian Revenue Department, the labor, all of them are going to come onto a digital platform. So it will make things easy. So we are also working on something called the National Single Window,
Okay.
where exporter can get everything done through one window here. Now he has to go to 40, 50 places just to get signatures. So slowly we are moving. It has been very slow. These are things we could have done many years ago. But we shouldn't be now complaining about the past. We need to look at the future. Focus is there on exports. A lot of support is coming in. I think we have to rally behind that and get the best, get the maximum out of it.
So we have seen government by government, president by president being appointed in Sri Lanka, and we have a new government now. How's the government support towards these exporters?
Yes, so when we talk about government or politics, when it comes to exports, any government, any political party needs to support exports because that is vital for the country's economy.
Yeah.
Having said that, it's not only the politicians or the government. When you talk about exports and the value chain, private sector, individuals like us, trade chambers, we all have to play important role. So, we have been involved in this blame game, pointing the finger, but actually all of us were, if you ask why Sri Lanka exports has been stagnant, you can't point the finger at one party or one area and say they are the ones who made it slow. All of us are to be blamed. But we see a lot of change happening now, and like I said, a lot of focus because we have to start paying our debt very soon, and we need that foreign currency. So knowing that importance, there are a lot of support given to us. We work very closely with like the Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Industries, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and there are a few other relevant agencies. And we have noticed sort of urgency from them also, supporting us. I mean, they have set us a target of 14 billion. So if we have any concerns, we go back to them and tell them, see, these are the roadblocks we have, these are the red tapes we have. Clear this for us. And then we will, exporters will do their job. Exporters, you must remember, Sri Lankan exporters went through a 30-year-old war.
Correct, yeah.
They went through the tsunami, the Easter bombing, COVID, the financial crisis, the political crisis. Still they sustained. I mean, some of them closed down due to they couldn't do anything, but many of them sustained their business. That was the only source to bring foreign currency to the country. So they are masters in this game. So if you clear the roadblocks that they have, imagine doing 14 billion is not a big challenge for them.
Correct.
So we hope that the government will keep on supporting the exporters of Sri Lanka. Of course, we don't see any incentives that are given to exporter. Now, if you were talking about young entrepreneurs who want to start exports, there is no direct incentives that is provided to them. So, of course, we understand, it's not that we have so much of money to give into all these areas. But I think moving forward, to support them, to motivate the newcomers, there should be some sort of incentives provided to them so that, we can increase the number of exporters. There should be incentives given on innovation, on value addition, on research and development. So once all these elements comes into play, we can have a thriving export industry in Sri Lanka. So like I said, for us as a private sector chamber, we don't support a political party. We work with any government. And like I said, anybody in power knows the importance of supporting the exporters community. So we get a lot of support and we work very closely with them, complementing them. And they also support us with one aim, to increase Sri Lanka exports.
So it's quite clear about exports in Sri Lanka, where we want to go and how we're going to achieve it. And especially if you're an entrepreneur once again looking for exports, or if you have any questions, be free to drop a comment below. So Mr. Marikar, thank you very much for sharing these valuable insights about exports and giving a great message to the public. Thank you very much for being in our show.
Thank you very much for having me on board.